The blade that strikes the fatal blow rarely flashes in the sunlight of an open battlefield. An enemy standing before you is a known entity, a physical manifestation of danger that your mind can process and prepare for. You can see their eyes. When the threat is visible, your primal instincts awaken, your muscles tense, your shield is raised, and your rational mind calculates the geometry of survival. You are ready to fight, to block, to survive the encounter with honor. The front line is the domain of honest warfare. It is where adversaries declare their intentions with drawn steel. There is a strange, dark purity in an enemy who looks you in the face and admits they wish to conquer you. But life is rarely an open battlefield. You were not standing on the bloodied earth of a war zone. You were seated at a dinner table. The room was warm, filled with the comforting sounds of clinking glass and shared laughter. You were sharing the deepest corners of your soul. You spoke of your dreams, those fragile visions of the future. You unveiled your fears, the quiet terrors that keep you awake in the dark. You revealed your weaknesses. You handed these precious fragments of your inner citadel to someone you called a friend, someone you trusted as a partner in the harsh journey of life. You believed that the fortress of your mind was secure in their presence, and that is precisely why you are now bleeding. The betrayal that shatters your reality never arrives wearing the mask of a stranger. A stranger possesses no power over your inner peace because they have not been granted the keys to your gates. A stranger cannot reach your unarmored back. They stand outside the walls of your trust. The devastation always originates from the very hands you invited inside. It comes from the person you sheltered from the storm. Looking back from the ashes of betrayal, a cold wave of foolishness washes over you. You feel profoundly blind. You replay the fragmented memories, sifting through the echoes of past conversations, searching for the moment the poison was poured. Suddenly, the truth emerges from the fog. The red flags you desperately painted white, hoping to preserve the illusion of loyalty, begin to bleed through. The stain of deception becomes impossible to ignore. You finally see the subtle shifting glances. You hear the calculated pauses in their speech, the moments where truth was carefully omitted. You realize the signs of their impending treachery were present from the very beginning. These omens were screaming at you, echoing through the hidden corridors of your relationship. But they were speaking a dark language you stubbornly refused to learn. You chose the comfort of illusion over the harsh reality of human nature. We all harbor a desperate desire to believe that humanity is inherently good. We want to construct a worldview where loyalty is the default setting of the human soul. We project our own internal sense of honor onto a chaotic world. The ancient philosophers of power would look upon this naive optimism with a cold, unforgiving gaze. 5 centuries ago, amidst the brutal, unforgiving courts of Florence, the code governing the dark shadows of human nature was written. This was not a text about utopian ideals or how the world ought to be. It was a brutally honest dissection of how things actually are. It was a mirror held up to the darkest, most hidden corners of human existence. The verdict delivered upon mankind was chillingly objective. Human beings in their natural, undisciplined state are ungrateful. They are fickle, constantly swaying with the winds of fortune. They are false, hiding their true intentions. They are cowardly when faced with true peril, yet covetous of what belongs to others. This is the karmic reality of the untamed mind. If you walk through life assuming unwavering loyalty until proven otherwise, you are in grave danger. Operating on the default assumption of goodness is akin to walking blindly through an active minefield. You are essentially begging the universe to destroy your peace. You are offering your throat to the wolves. But there is another path, the path of the Stoic observer. If you train your mind to see clearly, if you learn to decode the subtle dark mechanics of the human shadow, your entire existence transforms. You transcend victimhood. You stop being a passive recipient of betrayal and become a sovereign master of human dynamics. You learn to read the unseen currents of intention. You develop the ability to spot the traitor long before their hand reaches for the concealed blade. Within the complex theater of human interaction, there are three specific recurring behaviors. These are the subtle tells, the cracks in the mask, that reveal a soul entirely incapable of genuine, enduring loyalty. These signs are rarely obvious. The true threat is never the fool who lies transparently to your face. The true danger lies in the individual who smiles a little too warmly, who nods a little too eagerly. It is the person who agrees with your every word, with suspicious speed. It is the manipulator who uses the grand performance of honesty as a thick, impenetrable mask for their underlying deceit. We must now dissect these shadows. We will rip the comforting masks off these archetypes. We will look into the hidden depths of their character. By engaging in this cold analysis, you will begin to view your own inner circle with a renewed, piercing clarity. You will finally observe the hairline fractures in the foundations of your relationships. And most importantly, you will grant yourself the stoic permission to execute the action you have feared for far too long, severing the poisoned ties. Before we can accurately identify these three specific types of traitors, we must turn the lens inward. We must understand the profound flaw in our own internal architecture that continuously permits these destructive forces to breach our walls. There is a dangerous malfunction in your psychological operating system. It can be defined as the projection of your own internal virtue. You are, at your core, a person of integrity. You place immense value on the weight of your word. When you make a promise to assist another, you bind yourself to that action. You fulfill your obligations. Because this is the unbreakable law of your own mind, you naturally yet mistakenly project this identical moral framework onto everyone you meet. You operate under the fatal assumption that because you would never stoop to the level of betrayal, others will offer you the same courtesy. This is not nobility. In the harsh arena of life, it is a catastrophic error in strategic thinking. A person who stubbornly insists on making a profession of absolute goodness in all circumstances is destined for ruin. When surrounded by a multitude of individuals who do not share this moral compass, the truly good person becomes easy prey. You are casting the pure reflection of your own soul onto the eyes of a hungry wolf. The wolf does not marvel at the beauty of your reflection. The wolf does not comprehend your honor. The wolf is only conscious of its own insatiable hunger. A fundamental misunderstanding plagues modern society, the belief that trust is an emotional state. We say, "I feel like I can trust this person." This reliance on fleeting emotions is a critical failure of reason. Trust must never be relegated to a mere feeling. True trust, stoic trust, is a rigorous, objective calculation. The very moment you abandon reason and rely on the shifting sands of vibes or unspoken chemistry, you volunteer to become prey. Throughout the dark tapestry of history, the most devastating con artists were undisputed masters of emotional manipulation. They were virtuosos of projecting the perfect facade. They possessed the dark art of making their targets feel entirely unique. They made you feel profoundly understood, seen in a way no one else had ever seen you. They weaponized your natural human desire for profound connection. They used your own loneliness as the Trojan horse to breach the gates of your inner citadel. You must ruthlessly sever your reliance on emotional intuition when evaluating character. Feelings are transient, easily manipulated shadows. You must transfer your faith entirely to the cold, hard observation of recurring patterns. Patterns are the silent, unyielding truth of a human being. Spoken words are easily forged. Expressed emotions can be expertly counterfeited, but sustained, consistent behavior is the only metric that cannot maintain a lie indefinitely. We will now analyze three distinct, observable behavioral patterns. These are the silent alarms that signal the presence of a dormant enemy. These are the individuals currently residing within your life, expertly masquerading as devoted allies. The first indicator of a hidden traitor is the deployment of weaponized vulnerability. We call this archetype the premature confessor. This is perhaps the most dangerous sign, because it utterly defies our conventional understanding of human bonding. Its counterintuitive nature is exactly why it successfully bypasses the defenses of even the most intelligent, guarded individuals. We have been socially conditioned to believe that the sharing of vulnerability is the ultimate proof of closeness. Society dictates that if someone is willing to expose their deepest pain, their darkest secrets, or their unhealed trauma to us, it is an undeniable badge of their trust. We are taught to be honored by this unearned intimacy. Consider the scenario: you meet someone new, a potential friend, a fresh colleague, or perhaps a prospective romantic partner. Within the first few fleeting hours of your acquaintance, or perhaps within the first few days, they drop a massive weight upon you. They launch into harrowing tales of their abusive childhood. They detail the chaotic destruction caused by a manipulative ex-partner. They lean in and whisper a deep, dark, destructive secret they swear has never crossed their lips before. In that moment, your ego subtly inflates. A quiet pride takes root in your chest. You tell yourself, they must perceive something incredibly special within me. We must share a rare, profound cosmic connection for them to open up so quickly. Banish this illusion immediately. You are not special in this dynamic. You are merely a designated target. This rapid unburdening is not the foundation of genuine intimacy. It is a calculated, premature confession designed to ensnare you. Within the shadowy realm of psychological manipulation, this act of oversharing is not a bonding exercise. It is a cold, calculated transaction. It is an exploitation of the hidden mechanics that govern human reciprocity and obligation. While love and fear are widely recognized as primary drivers of human action, there exists a third, equally powerful force: the invisible weight of debt. When a manipulator hands you a dark secret, they instantly manufacture a subconscious emotional debt. They have forcefully deposited a piece of their fragmented soul into your hands. Immediately, the ingrained social contract of reciprocity activates within you. You feel an overwhelming unspoken demand to offer them a piece of yourself in return. And so, under the pressure of this manufactured intimacy, you lower your stoic shield. You begin to speak. You hand over your own guarded secrets. You reveal the quiet insecurities that plague your solitary moments. You might confess the unspoken frictions within your marriage, or the hidden financial anxieties you carry. You operate under the warm delusion that you are forging a bond of mutual trust. You believe you are building a bridge between two souls. In stark reality, you are not building a bridge. You are systematically handing them live ammunition. You are providing them with the exact coordinates of your psychological vulnerabilities, which they will store for future deployment. The individual who confesses prematurely is fundamentally a person devoid of internal boundaries. A soul that lacks the discipline of boundaries is a soul entirely incapable of sustaining true loyalty. They respect nothing, not even themselves. If they possess so little reverence for their own privacy that they will eagerly betray it to a virtual stranger, which is what you are to them, they will inevitably betray your sacred privacy to the very next stranger they encounter. Apply the cold blade of logic to the situation. Why would they bestow such immense trust upon you so rapidly? They have no empirical knowledge of your true character. They do not know if you possess the moral fortitude to guard their pain. They execute this maneuver precisely because it is a highly effective manipulation tactic. It is a psychological hack designed to speedrun the intricate, time-consuming process of building genuine trust. They are bypassing the necessary trials of time. They seek to shortcut the journey by directly hacking into your empathy. They are scanning the environment, searching desperately for either a willing savior to carry their burdens or a psychological leverage point to exploit for their own gain. Authentic trust is inherently glacial in its formation. True trust cannot be freely given. It must be rigorously earned through the crucible of shared experience. The ancient Stoics understood this unbreakable law of human nature. The Stoic philosophers and the hardened warriors of antiquity knew that you did not gain entry into the sacred inner circle by reciting a tragic narrative. You earned your place by shedding blood on the same unforgiving battlefield over a decade of shared struggle. You must cultivate a deep wariness of anyone who attempts to fast-forward the natural progression of a relationship. If an individual unveils their darkest, most unresolved trauma on the very first encounter, your only logical response is to retreat. They are not searching for an equal partner in life. They are actively hunting for a psychological hostage. They require a beast of burden to carry the heavy, chaotic baggage they refuse to process themselves. And the trap is sprung the precise moment you attempt to establish a healthy boundary. The second you try to step back from the emotional deluge, they will instantly weaponize that very vulnerability they forced upon you. The accusations will fly. I opened the deepest parts of my soul to you. I placed my ultimate trust in you. How can you be so incredibly cold and unfeeling? In an instant, the dynamic shifts. You are now securely trapped in their web. You remain in their toxic orbit solely because you are paralyzed by an unearned sense of guilt. And that very guilt is the invisible psychological cage they expertly constructed around you within the first hour of your meeting. The stoic response to this manipulation is one of guarded observation. You must learn to accept the incoming information with a calm, unreadable demeanor, but offer absolutely nothing of your own substance in return. Listen to their chaotic narrative. Observe the frantic energy behind their words, but keep your own emotional cards placed firmly face down on the table. A profound secret shared far too early is never a gift of intimacy. It is a jagged hook hidden within a seemingly appealing bait. It is designed to snag your empathy and reel you into their drama. Recognize the trap for what it is. Maintain your stoic center and absolutely do not bite. We now turn our attention to the second archetype of betrayal. This is the phenomenon of the Switzerland syndrome. We are dealing with the character of the pathological neutral. This is a quieter yet equally destructive force. I really don't want to get involved. I think it's best if I just stay out of it. I can completely see both sides of the argument. On the surface, these carefully crafted sentences sound remarkably mature and enlightened. They mimic the measured tones of reason and diplomacy. They sound exactly like the noble words of a dedicated peacemaker trying to maintain harmony. Do not be deceived by this auditory illusion. These are the cowardly words of a dormant traitor. In the profound studies of power and human nature, it is deeply understood that forced neutrality is often a fatal flaw. When two distinct powers lock into conflict, the individual who chooses to stand on the sidelines courts destruction from all sides. The one who remains stubbornly neutral is ultimately hated by the party who loses the conflict and equally despised by the party who emerges victorious. Neither side respects the coward who refused to take a stand when the stakes were high. Why is this the universal law? Because in the face of injustice or conflict, neutrality is never a genuine moral stance. Neutrality is nothing more than a cold, self-serving calculation of personal safety. It is the prioritization of comfort over integrity. When an individual consciously chooses to remain neutral while witnessing blatant disrespect directed toward you, they are not acting out of objective fairness. They are systematically hedging their bets. They are protecting their own interests above your bond. Envision a scenario where you are thrust into a legitimate conflict. Someone has definitively wronged you. Perhaps they have stolen your property, spread malicious falsehoods about your character, or openly disrespected you in a public forum. Your supposed friend stands nearby, passively observing the transgression. They possess the full knowledge that you are in the right. They know with absolute certainty that the aggressor is acting with malice and deceit. Yet when the dust settles and you turn to them expecting the solid wall of their support, they merely offer a non-committal shrug. "I'm friends with both of you," they murmur. "I really don't want to have to choose sides in this." You must etch this absolute truth into your mind. In the presence of deliberate disrespect, silence is an active, aggressive choice. It is not an absence of action. It is a profound declaration of their internal priorities. By flatly refusing to verbally condemn the unprovoked disrespect aimed at you, they are inherently validating the aggressor's actions. Their silence provides the oxygen that allows the disrespect to burn brighter. The pathological neutral individual places a far higher value on maintaining their frictionless access to a wide network of people than they do on upholding any rigid internal principles. They are addicted to the illusion of universal approval. Their ultimate unspoken goal is simply to be liked by everyone they encounter. They are terrified of closing any doors or burning any bridges, regardless of how toxic the destination across that bridge might be. A person whose primary driving force is the desperate need to be universally liked is a person who fundamentally stands for absolutely nothing. They have no solid core, no unshakable foundation of personal honor or loyalty. If they lack the minimal courage required to defend you when you are clearly demonstrably in the right, they will absolutely abandon you when you are truly vulnerable and the cost of defending you is high. This specific archetype is incredibly dangerous precisely because they operate as invisible enemies. They will never draw a blade and attack you from the front. They avoid direct conflict at all costs. Instead, their betrayal is one of omission. They simply take a calculated step to the side entirely, removing their support, and passively watch as the proverbial bus runs you over. They allow the destruction to happen without lifting a finger, and yet, after the catastrophe, they will be the very first to appear at your hospital bed. They will arrive bearing flowers and wearing a mask of profound sorrow, whispering, "I am so incredibly sorry that this terrible thing happened to you." They are the ultimate fair-weather companions. They will enthusiastically push to the front of the crowd to congratulate you when you achieve victory, desperate to bask in your reflected light. But they will vanish like smoke the moment you face defeat. A stoic mind possesses a profound paradoxical respect for an openly declared enemy over a neutral, vacillating friend. An open enemy is a known variable. They declare their hostility, and in doing so, they offer you the clarity of truth. An open enemy can be analyzed, anticipated, and engaged in honorable combat. You know exactly where they stand on the battlefield of life. The neutral friend, however, builds their entire existence upon endlessly shifting sands. If you attempt to build the heavy fortress of your life upon their perceived support, you are courting disaster. When the inevitable storms of life arrive, their weak foundation instantly liquefies, dragging you down into the abyss with them. Cast a cold, objective eye over your current inner circle. Identify the individuals who consistently, infuriatingly play the role of devil's advocate the moment someone inflicts intentional pain upon you. Who are the voices that quickly chime in with, "Well, perhaps we should look at it from their perspective," or "maybe he just didn't mean it the way it sounded," even when the malice was crystal clear and undeniable. Do not mistake their cowardice for wisdom. They are not attempting to offer you a broader, more enlightened perspective. They are frantically deploying psychological maneuvers to avoid the immense discomfort that true loyalty demands. Genuine loyalty is not a comfortable state of being. True loyalty exacts a heavy toll. Loyalty demands that you take a definitive stance, and in doing so, loyalty practically guarantees the creation of your own enemies. If your supposed friend harbors a paralyzing fear of making enemies on your behalf, then they have surrendered their right to the title of friend. They have downgraded themselves to the status of a mere fan, a spectator in the arena of your life. And the nature of a fan is inherently fickle. They cheer when the spectacle is entertaining, and they leave the arena the moment the gladiator bleeds too heavily. You cannot build an empire with spectators. You need fellow warriors. It has been philosophically argued that the darkest, most agonizing depths of karmic punishment are not reserved for the impulsively violent, but for those capable souls who, during times of profound moral crisis, chose the safety of neutrality. Why is the judgment so severe? Because the man who commits violence at least acts upon a burning conviction, however flawed. He stakes a claim in reality. The neutral man is driven by nothing but the pathetic instinct of self-preservation. You must view it as a mathematical impossibility to trust a person who actively maintains a friendship with your known enemies. The geometry of loyalty does not permit such intersecting lines of allegiance. If they willingly sit at the table and share a drink with the very individual who is actively attempting to pour poison into your cup, you must understand that they are implicitly helping to pass the poison along. The Stoic action is absolute severance. Cut the rotting rope that binds you to them. Release them back into the void of their own neutrality. Let them drift aimlessly in the grey areas of life where no true bonds can ever be formed. To survive the harsh realities of existence, you require steadfast allies who are fully prepared to bleed beside you in the mud. You have no use for passive spectators munching popcorn from the safety of the stands while you fight for your very survival. This brings us to the third and perhaps most insidious sign of a dormant traitor, the grandstander of virtue. We classify this incredibly dangerous archetype as the moral performer. They use the light to hide their deep, encompassing darkness. I absolutely despise drama. I am a deeply sensitive empath. I have a strict policy against lying. My only real flaw is that I'm just too much of a nice person. Listen closely to these declarations. They are alarms disguised as angelic hymns. The absolute loudest, most repetitive announcements made within any room are almost universally the grandest, most desperate lies. True virtue does not require a megaphone. It does not demand an audience. It exists quietly as a state of being. Within the deeper realms of psychological study, this phenomenon is identified as reaction formation. It is a complex, subconscious defense mechanism. The individual obsessively constantly portrays the exact opposite of their true hidden nature. They construct this elaborate, blinding facade because they are fundamentally terrified of the dark, chaotic reality of their own internal shadow. They overcompensate with light to distract from the abyss within. The individual who feels the constant burning need to remind you of how intensely they detest drama is without fail the very epicenter of the chaotic storms that routinely tear through your social circle. They are the hurricane complaining about the wind. Similarly, the person who incessantly lectures you regarding their unwavering commitment to absolute honesty is almost certainly laying the psychological groundwork to execute a massive deception against you. They are setting the stage. The ancient texts regarding power dynamics speak extensively concerning the mere appearance of virtue. It was noted that possessing true, unyielding virtue in all things can be a hindrance, but appearing virtuous is an absolute necessity for the ambitious. The masses are easily enchanted by the shimmering surface. Everyone readily observes the mask you carefully construct and present to the world. Only a rare, unfortunate few ever get close enough to experience the terrifying reality of who you truly are. But a terrifying evolution has occurred. The modern manipulator is not ignorant of these ancient texts. They have studied the dark playbook of human nature. They understand the mechanics of perception and deception better than most. They are acutely aware that in order to successfully conceal their deeply ingrained dark triad traits, their malignant narcissism, their calculated Machiavellianism, their cold psychopathy, they must seamlessly wear the mask of an absolute saint. These predators do not merely engage in good acts. They transform goodness into a theatrical performance. They are the directors and the star actors of their own moral play. Every action is calculated for maximum social impact and applause. They will relentlessly broadcast their perceived righteousness. They flood the public square with declarations of their moral superiority. They ensure every act of charity they participate in is meticulously documented and aggressively advertised. They are the first to cast a harsh, unforgiving judgment upon the moral failings of others, using the mistakes of normal humans as a dark pedestal to elevate their own carefully constructed image of divine perfection. They strategically position themselves within your group as the indispensable protector, the designated caregiver, the flawless moral compass. They desperately want you to view them as the ultimate authority on what is right and good. You must recognize this performance for what it truly is: sophisticated, predatory camouflage. An individual who genuinely possesses a good and noble heart feels absolutely no compulsion to hire a public relations team for their soul. True goodness is a quiet, unassuming force. Unshakable integrity operates in total silence. It is definitively proven through consistent, unseen actions performed in the dark, not loudly proclaimed in daily press releases under the glaring sun. When you encounter someone who is constantly aggressively broadcasting their own morality upon every available frequency, you must realize they are engaged in a high-stakes sales pitch. They are selling an illusion, and when a charismatic individual is trying this desperately to sell you on the purity of their character, the only logical stoic response is to immediately secure your valuables. Check your wallet, secure your heart, and guard your mind. This specific archetype, the moral performer, stands as the most profoundly dangerous of the three. They are lethal because they have mastered the dark art of weaponizing the very concept of morality against their victims. If your intuition pierces their disguise and you catch them in a definitive lie or a cruel act, they will not crumble or confess. They will instantly, masterfully flip the script, turning their aggression into a performance of victimhood. How can you possibly hurl such vicious accusations at me, especially after every single sacrifice I have made for you? They will cry. I am the only person in this cruel world who truly selflessly cares about your well-being. They forge their publicly perceived virtue into an impenetrable shield. You find yourself paralyzed, unable to launch a justified attack because society has universally declared them to be so incredibly nice. You are outmaneuvered by an illusion. You feel prohibited from questioning their hidden motives because they have so effectively branded themselves as deeply spiritual or morally superior. They use the light of their false halo to blind you to the dagger in their hand. To defeat this illusion, you must meticulously analyze the disconnect. You must shift your gaze away from their dazzling words and focus entirely on the shadows cast by their actions. Look for the glitches in the moral matrix they have programmed. Carefully observe the individual who showers you with excessive sweetness, yet turns around and treats a subordinate or a service worker with casual, dismissive cruelty. The true measure of a soul is how it treats those from whom it can extract no benefit. Keep a cold, watchful eye on the person who publicly preaches the sacred gospel of unwavering loyalty, yet gleefully initiates toxic gossip about their other best friend, the very microsecond that person steps out of the room. Scrutinize the individual who loudly proclaims their own profound humility, but manages to aggressively dominate every single conversation, invariably steering the dialogue back to the magnificent shining monument of their own achievements. No matter how meticulously crafted the disguise, the mask always inevitably slips. The sheer exhaustion of maintaining a false reality guarantees moments of failure. The predator's true nature will flash in their eyes for a fraction of a second. Remember the ancient warning regarding the nature of predators. The hungry wolf does not politely knock upon the shepherd's door, introduce itself, and honestly declare, "I have arrived with the express intention of devouring your flock." To operate so honestly would ensure immediate destruction. Instead, the wolf meticulously dons the bloody skin of a slaughtered sheep. It mimics the innocent bleating of the flock. It lowers its head and pretends to peacefully graze on the pasture. The wolf exercises immense, terrifying patience. It waits in the center of the herd, perfectly camouflaged by the illusion of belonging, biding its time until the vigilant shepherd finally closes his eyes and succumbs to sleep. The moral performer is the human embodiment of the wolf in sheep's clothing. To survive in a world populated by such entities, you must actively develop the cold, calculating eyes of an apex predator to successfully identify another predator. When you observe an individual expending an unnatural, exhausting amount of energy, attempting to convince you of the flawless purity of their character, you must pause. Step back and ask yourself a vital defensive question. What dark, hidden truth are they so desperately attempting to distract my attention from? In nearly every instance, they are actively trying to obscure a massive, horrifying void within their own psychological structure. They are hiding a chilling lack of genuine human empathy. They are concealing a deep, cold, calculating narcissism, a worldview that fundamentally categorizes you not as a living, breathing human being, but merely as a useful object to be exploited. Their ultimate strategy is to mesmerize you with the beautiful cadence of their spoken words. They want you so thoroughly enchanted by the narrative they are spinning that you completely stop monitoring the subtle, dangerous movements of their hands. And while you stand there hypnotized by the illusion of their virtue, their unseen hands are actively dismantling your defenses, stealing your energy, extracting your resources, and preparing to deliver the final devastating blow. We have now clearly identified and dissected the three primary archetypes of betrayal: the boundary-destroying premature confessor, the cowardly enabling pathological neutral, and the dangerously manipulative moral performer. As these psychological profiles are laid bare, it is highly likely that specific faces from your own life are beginning to flash across the theater of your mind. You may suddenly recognize the actors who have been playing these roles in your personal drama. Accompanying these sudden realizations, you may experience a distinct physical tightness blooming in the center of your chest. Do not ignore this somatic signal. That heavy sensation is not mere anxiety. It is the vital force of your own intuition. Your intuition is finally violently awakening from the heavy, comforting sedatives you have been forcibly feeding it for years. The fog of illusion is burning away, leaving only the harsh, undeniable clarity of truth. However, as this newfound clarity takes hold, a painful, haunting question inevitably surfaces in the mind. Why was I completely unable to see this profound deception before? How could I have been so blind to the predators sharing my fire? Why do intelligent, observant humans repeatedly choose to place their sacred trust in these destructive entities, maintaining the bond right up until the catastrophic moment they are utterly destroyed by it? The root cause of this blindness is not a lack of intelligence, but a deeply ingrained psychological glitch known to Stoics and strategists alike as normalcy bias. It is an evolutionary flaw that causes us to wildly miscalculate novel threats. The human brain, in an attempt to conserve energy and reduce anxiety, automatically assumes that the current peaceful state of affairs will continue indefinitely. We operate on the flawed logic that the past guarantees the future. We fall victim to the dangerous assumption that simply because a specific individual has not yet driven a blade into our back, they possess absolutely no intention or capacity to ever commit such an atrocity. We confuse absence of action with absence of intent. Humanity is profoundly, chronically addicted to the comforting embrace of the status quo. We crave stability above all things, even if that stability is built entirely upon a foundation of rotting lies and hidden daggers. To finally acknowledge the horrifying reality that your closest confidant is in fact a pathological neutral requires you to cross a terrifying threshold. It means you must initiate a severe, world-shattering confrontation. Accepting the truth means you must willingly walk into a period of profound loneliness and isolation as you purge the poison from your life. It demands that you stand before the mirror and painfully admit that your judgment was catastrophic. The fragile human ego harbors a deeper, more profound hatred for admitting its own terrifying misjudgments than it does for the actual pain of being betrayed. The ego would rather die comfortably in an illusion than survive in the harsh cold of reality. Driven by the ego's desperate need to be right, you begin to manufacture elaborate excuses for their toxic behavior. You become the defense attorney for your own abuser, arguing their case within the silent courtroom of your own mind. He's just enduring a particularly dark and difficult chapter in his life right now, you whisper to yourself, providing endless cover for the exhausting, boundary-breaking emotional vampirism of the premature confessor. She simply has a deep-seated anxiety regarding any form of confrontation. You rationalize desperately, trying to justify the sickening cowardice and abandonment displayed by the pathological neutral when you needed them most. He is just incredibly passionate about ensuring that the absolute right thing is always done. You tell yourself, willfully blinding your eyes to the oppressive, manipulative, and entirely self-serving tyranny of the moral performer. Recognize exactly what is happening in these moments of rationalization. You are actively, aggressively gaslighting your own soul. You are forcing your intuition into submission to preserve a false peace. You must stop this immediately. The ancient treatises on the unvarnished realities of power were absolutely not written for those weak souls whose primary goal in life is to remain comfortable and undisturbed. They were written as survival manuals for the chaotic arena of reality. They were meticulously crafted for those rare individuals who actually possess the deep burning desire to survive the brutal machinations of the world. And true survival fundamentally requires the absolute unmourned death of your comforting illusions. You must summon the stoic courage to look directly at the people you claim to love. You must force yourself to see them, not through the rose-tinted lenses of who you desperately wish they were, but with the cold, piercing clarity of exactly who they are. This practice of objective observation is known as the cold read. It is the ability to strip away emotion, history, and hope and analyze a human being purely by the raw data of their consistent actions. As we prepare to move deeper into the dark mechanics of human dynamics, we will transition from mere passive observation to deliberate action. We will discuss the precise methods required to scientifically test the integrity of these individuals. Because in the pursuit of absolute sovereignty over your own life, mere suspicion is never sufficient. Suspicion is a fog that paralyzes action. To act decisively and justly, you require the solid steel of undeniable proof. The grand strategists of history firmly believed in the absolute necessity of ruthlessly testing the structural integrity of it. You must apply this exact engineering mindset to your inner circle. You must actively test the load-bearing capacity of your relationships. I will provide you with the exact psychological pressure points, the calculated tests of loyalty designed specifically to force these meticulously crafted masks to shatter and fall. It is an undeniable law of physics and psychology alike. When immense targeted pressure is applied to a flawed structure, the hidden cracks become visible and the structure ultimately breaks. You must become the pressure, and it is infinitely better that these toxic bonds break right now under your controlled conditions while the stakes remain relatively low than later, in the heat of battle when your entire empire is on the line and you have everything to lose. Prepare your mind for the transition. We are moving out of the realm of theoretical philosophy and stepping onto the battlefield of practical application. The time for silent observation has ended. The time for revelation is at hand. You hold your deep suspicions. You have clearly recognized the ancient signs painted upon the walls of your relationships. The premature confessor is systematically draining your vital energy reserves on a daily basis. The pathological neutral is visibly hesitating, calculating their own safety while your reputation hangs in the balance. The moral performer is preaching their deafening gospel of virtue while their hands work diligently in the shadows. Yet you are a disciple of stoic reason, not a chaotic tyrant. You do not pass sentence and execute an exile without a fair and rigorous trial. To justify severing a bond, you require the cold comfort of absolute certainty. The masters of historical strategy were fundamentally scientists of power and human nature. They completely discarded the perilous habit of guessing. They built their empires upon the bedrock of empirical, observable evidence. It was a cardinal rule of statecraft that one must never purposefully allow a dangerous disorder to quietly fester and continue simply to escape the temporary discomfort of initiating a war. Peace built on a rotting foundation is an illusion. Translated to the personal realm, do not willfully ignore the blazing red flags simply to maintain a false suffocating peace within your social circle. You must bravely provoke the necessary conflict in order to excavate the truth. You are ethically obligated to administer a rigorous psychological stress test. Master engineers do not simply glance at a newly constructed bridge and blindly assume it is strong enough to hold the weight of a city. They deliberately drive massive, heavy trucks over the structure to see if the concrete cracks under the immense strain. You must drive a metaphorical truck over the foundations of your most questionable relationships to see if they hold. We will now deploy the 3 specific calculated methods designed to shatter the illusion and force the mask to fall. Test number 1 is the deployment of the No test, designed explicitly to expose the true nature of the premature confessor. Understand their strategy. The premature confessor utilizes the raw power of unearned vulnerability to artificially manufacture a deep sense of obligation within you. They weaponize their pain to hijack your natural empathy. Their ultimate objective is to manipulate you into feeling entirely responsible for their emotional regulation and their physical salvation. They seek to completely merge their chaotic existence with your stable one, acting as a parasite upon a host. To accurately test the structural integrity of this dynamic, you must suddenly and firmly erect an impenetrable wall. You must interrupt their established pattern of extraction with a definitive boundary. The very next instance, they attempt to indiscriminately dump a manufactured crisis onto your shoulders, or demand an unreasonable favor, or attempt to monopolize your finite time, you must deploy a single powerful word: no. Deliver this refusal with absolute stoic calm. Do not dilute its power by offering a frantic apology. Do not weaken your position by providing a long, agonizing, and unnecessary explanation justifying your right to your own time. Simply state with immovable resolve, "I cannot do that for you right now." Or if they attempt an emotional dump, "I simply do not possess the emotional bandwidth to engage in this heavy discussion at this moment." Once the boundary is set, retreat into silence and carefully watch their reaction. A psychologically healthy individual, one capable of genuine respect, will immediately acknowledge and honor the boundary you have erected. A true friend will nod and say, "I completely understand. Take care of yourself." They will gracefully adjust their expectations and move forward without resentment. The manipulator, however, will experience an immediate internal panic. When faced with a firm boundary, the manipulator's carefully constructed mask of vulnerable innocence will violently crack. Denied their usual supply of your energy, they will reflexively resort to aggressive, guilt-tripping tactics. They will wail, "I truly believed you were my closest friend. I have absolutely no one else in this dark world to turn to. How can you be so incredibly cold and abandon me in my greatest hour of need?" Alternatively, their panic may instantly transmute into burning rage. The warmth of their fake intimacy will freeze over. They will turn completely cold, deliberately withdrawing their presence in a calculated attempt to punish your disobedience. This extreme, volatile reaction provides you with all the empirical data you require. It definitively proves that their initial display of vulnerability was never a genuine, heartfelt request for human connection or mutual support. It was always a disguised demand for your absolute submission. The moment you dared to refuse to submit to their emotional tyranny, the predator instantly dropped its disguise and bared its fangs in a desperate attempt to regain control. Recognize this profound truth. If simply uttering the word no is enough to entirely destroy the foundation of a relationship, then it was never a genuine relationship to begin with. It was an illusion held together by your compliance. You were not participating in a mutual friendship. You were unwittingly sustaining a parasitic attachment that only survived as long as you allowed yourself to be continuously drained of your life force. We move now to the second method of extraction. Test 2 is the public defense test, meticulously designed to smoke out the pathological neutral from their comfortable hiding place in the shadows of ambiguity. The defining characteristic of the neutral is their desperate desire to constantly play both sides of the board. They wish to exist entirely within the safe grey shadows, completely avoiding the harsh, illuminating light of accountability. Your task is to aggressively drag them out of the shadows and force them to stand in the blinding light. You must deliberately engineer a scenario where they are absolutely compelled to take a definitive public stance in front of others. This does not require instigating a massive apocalyptic war. The test can be subtle. It can center around a simple difference of opinion, a basic business decision, or even a stated preference regarding a shared social dynamic. Frame the scenario clearly. We have reached a crossroads and need to make a definitive decision on this matter. I firmly believe we should take the left path. John insists we go right. Where exactly do you stand on this issue? Anticipate their evasion tactics. Do not allow them the luxury of slipping out the back door by cowardly stating, "Well, I think both sides make some really valid points." Block their escape route with immovable stoic silence. Lock your eyes onto theirs. Hold their gaze without wavering. Let the uncomfortable silence stretch and heavy the air. Calmly reiterate, "I understand that, but I need to know definitively which specific path you are choosing to support." Now observe the physical manifestation of their panic. Watch them physically squirm under the weight of forced decision. Watch the sweat form as their internal compass spins wildly, trying to calculate which answer offends the fewest people. The pathological neutral lives in sheer absolute terror of being held accountable for a firm position. They will frantically attempt to deflect the question. They will try to diffuse the tension by making an inappropriate joke. They will utilize every conversational trick available to delay the moment of choice. If this individual demonstrates that they cannot summon the courage to firmly support you in a minor, low-stakes decision, what does that reveal about their character? It reveals with chilling clarity that they will absolutely abandon. To the wolves, the moment a genuine high-stakes crisis erupts. To confirm the diagnosis, raise the stakes of the test slightly. Introduce a controversial yet demonstrably true opinion. State a truth that you know is deeply unpopular within the immediate group. Then watch their eyes. Do they stand firm beside you, validating the truth despite the social pressure? Or do their eyes nervously dart around the room? If their immediate reflex is to frantically scan the faces of the crowd to gauge the popular consensus before they dare to consult the quiet voice of their own conscience, they are emphatically not your ally. They do not belong to you. They belong entirely to the collective herd. And you must understand the brutal nature of the herd. The very instant you stumble and fall, the herd will unthinkingly trample you to death in its blind panic. Finally, we arrive at the third crucible. Test 3 is the deliberate withdrawal of praise specifically engineered to break the carefully constructed facade of the moral performer and expose the ravenous ego hiding beneath the saintly mask. You must understand the dark engine that drives the moral performer. They do not run on genuine goodwill. Their entire psychological apparatus runs on a highly combustible external fuel source. That fuel is constant, unending validation. They possess a desperate, insatiable need to be continuously told by the surrounding world that they are fundamentally good, exceptionally kind, and profoundly more special and enlightened than the average human being. To test them, you must execute a tactical strike on their supply line. You must completely sever the fuel line of your validation. Abruptly stop offering any words of praise or admiration for their supposedly selfless acts. Cease all reactions to their endless, exhausting displays of virtue signaling. The next time they corner you to deliver a glowing, self-congratulatory monologue regarding their recent charity work, offer nothing but a blank, stoic stare. Simply nod your head minimally and offer a flat, unenthusiastic, cool. When they post their lengthy, self-righteous moral rants seeking digital applause, deny them your engagement. Do not like the post. Do not leave a supportive comment. Begin treating their endless performance of divine goodness as if it were the most normal, expected, and profoundly boring baseline of human behavior. Treat them as if their miracles are nothing more than taking out the trash. There is one universal truth regarding the dark triad personalities. Even the most deeply entrenched malignant narcissists absolutely despise the feeling of being considered boring or entirely unexceptional by those around them. They harbor a pathological terror of being perceived as ordinary. If you systematically starve their ravenous ego of the adulation it requires to survive, the internal pressure will build, and they will inevitably be forced to escalate their behavior. They will desperately resort to executing something far more dramatic, perhaps even reckless, in a frantic bid to force your attention back upon them. If the positive performance fails, they will pivot seamlessly to devaluation. The saintly mask will crack, revealing the petty tyrant beneath. They will begin to launch subtle, passive-aggressive digs aimed at your character. They will say, "You really don't seem to care about these vital issues anymore." Or they will accuse you, stating, "You've become incredibly cold and distant lately. Is something wrong with you?" They will relentlessly attempt to provoke any emotional reaction from you, because to a starving ego, even negative attention is sustenance. By deliberately and coldly starving their infinite vanity, you leave the monster with no choice but to emerge screaming from the darkness of the cave. The illusion evaporates, and you will finally clearly see the burning rage hidden just behind their practiced smile. You will witness with horrifying clarity exactly how rapidly their loudly advertised unconditional love sours into a highly conditional, vicious hatred the very moment you stop serving as a mirror reflecting their imagined perfection. And so the crucible is complete. You have armed yourself with the dark knowledge. You have vigilantly observed the subtle signs. You have coldly and scientifically executed the necessary pressure tests upon the foundations of your inner circle. The empirical results have returned, and they are grim. The terrifying realization washes over you. You are currently surrounded by individuals who possess absolutely no capacity for genuine trust or enduring loyalty. The heavy weight of this profound realization settles deep into your bones. It brings with it a dark, suffocating wave of grief. The mourning of the illusions you once held so dear is a painful, necessary stage of stoic awakening. In the immediate aftermath of this brutal truth, a fiery, destructive urge will rise within your chest. You will feel an overwhelming desire to burn the entire rotten structure to the ground. You will want to scream your revelations at them. You will want to violently rip the masks from their faces in the public square, exposing their deep hypocrisy and betrayal to the entire world, so that everyone can see the monsters they truly are. You must suppress this primal urge immediately. Stop. The ancient masters of strategy issue a stern, uncompromising warning against the indulgence of useless, uncalculated anger. The man who truly desires to master his environment and be obeyed by the world must first prove he can master himself. The very first entity you must successfully command and subjugate is your own chaotic emotional state. Do not surrender to the weakness of creating a dramatic scene. Do not loudly announce your grand departure from their toxic lives. It is the hallmark of the emotional amateur to boldly announce they are leaving the battlefield. The true master of the game makes no proclamations. They simply evaporate into the mist, leaving the enemy swinging at empty air. Understand the tactical error of confrontation. If you directly confront a seasoned manipulator with the evidence of their betrayal, you are merely handing them one final golden opportunity to manipulate you all over again. They will not break down and confess. They will instantly deploy their defensive countermeasures. They will weaponize their tears. They will aggressively gaslight your reality, attempting to convince you that your own eyes are lying to you. They will masterfully spin the narrative, twisting the facts until you are somehow positioned as the crazy, paranoid aggressor, and they are the innocent, deeply wounded victim. Do not voluntarily hand the microphone to a master liar. Instead of a fiery explosion, you must utilize the tactical fade. It is a slow, methodical, and chillingly silent withdrawal of your presence and your energy from their orbit. You do not fight them, you simply starve them of your essence. You systematically transform yourself into the most boring, uninteresting entity in their universe. You become perpetually busy with unseen tasks. You become completely emotionally unavailable, offering nothing but grey rock responses to their probing. Denied the energy they require to survive, the parasites will eventually detach themselves. The premature confessor, finding your ear closed to their chaos, will wander off in search of a new naive victim willing to bleed for them. The cowardly, pathological, neutral sensing that you will no longer act as their sturdy shield in times of conflict will quietly slip away to find a new, strong, oblivious host to comfortably hide behind when the storms approach. The moral performer, starved of the applause they desperately need to sustain their fragile ego, will inevitably abandon the stage to seek out a fresh, gullible audience completely willing to blindly clap for their saintly illusions. Let them go. Do not mourn the departure of poison from your veins. You must realize that your ultimate goal in this lifetime is absolutely not to act as a rehabilitation center for fundamentally broken, manipulative individuals. Your supreme overarching objective is to fiercely secure the perimeter of your own existence. You are actively engaged in the monumental task of building a kingdom, an indestructible kingdom of the mind, of financial sovereignty, and of spiritual iron. A true king or queen understands a fundamental law of survival. You cannot tolerate the presence of hidden spies operating from inside the safety of your own walls. You cannot invite active saboteurs to dine at your grand table. This is the harsh, freezing, and entirely liberating cold truth of true adulthood. As you ascend in wisdom and power, the physical size of your inner circle should dramatically decrease, while the actual proven value of the remaining individuals must increase exponentially. Sitting at a sprawling table, surrounded by a dozen supposed friends, while fully knowing that 6 of them are concealing rusted knives beneath the tablecloth, is not a joyous feast. It is a terrifying, slow-motion ambush waiting to happen. Conversely, a tiny, seemingly isolated table occupied by only 2 individuals, where the bond of loyalty has been tested in fire and proven absolute, is not loneliness. It is the impregnable foundation of a true empire. This dark journey into the mechanics of betrayal inevitably leads to a terrifying precipice. You stare into the abyss and ask, does this mean I must trust absolutely no one? Must I walk the earth viewing every extended hand as a trap? Do I devolve into a deeply paranoid, isolated recluse, sitting alone in the crushing darkness, obsessively watching the shadows for signs of movement? No. To choose that path is to surrender to the very darkness you are trying to defeat. Paranoia is not the ultimate manifestation of wisdom. Paranoia is nothing more than profound fear, desperately attempting to masquerade as enlightenment. It is the mind turning against itself, out of sheer terror of the unknown. The ancient masters of dark psychology did not preach the doctrine of absolute blinding mistrust of humanity. The core of their teaching was a far more powerful directive. You must learn to trust your own mind's ability to perceive objective reality. The ultimate culminating goal of acquiring this heavy dark knowledge regarding human nature is emphatically not a life of bitter isolation. The goal is to develop an instrument of terrifying surgical precision in how you navigate the social world. It is only when you have truly mastered the grim art of spotting the counterfeits, when you can instantly recognize the subtle gleam of fool's gold, that you can finally deeply appreciate the breathtaking value of the genuine article when it appears. And the profound truth is, the genuine article does exist. Scattered sparsely throughout the chaotic masses, there are still men and women who quietly, fiercely possess the ancient, unbreakable virtues. They are the hidden pillars of the world. These rare souls do not broadcast their nature. They speak very little, preferring the heavy silence of action over the cheap currency of words. They accomplish much, building their legacy in the quiet dark, while the performers shout in the sun. They are the individuals who, when a crisis erupts, will pick a side based on honor and truth, and they will stubbornly stand their ground on that chosen side, even when the skies open up and it begins to rain fire and blood. They possess zero desire to advertise their internal code of honor to the uncomprehending masses. They simply quietly live by it day after grueling day. When you are fortunate enough to identify one of these rare golden souls, your duty is clear. You must treat them with the utmost reverence. You guard their presence in your life as if they were the rarest of treasures. You protect their peace, and you ensure that their unwavering loyalty is returned to them tenfold. But you must understand the tragic reality of your garden. You will remain entirely unable to locate these rare, blooming flowers if you refuse to aggressively clear away the choking, toxic weeds that currently obscure your vision. You have spent entirely too much of your precious, finite time on this earth, aimlessly pouring your purest water onto dead, rotting plants, desperately hoping for a miracle that will never, ever come to pass. You have exhausted your highest quality energy, constantly attempting to soothe the endless drama of the confessors, desperately trying to find a backbone in the neutrals, and applauding the empty theaters of the performers. You have been engaged in the futile, maddening alchemy of trying to transmute cold, dead stones into nourishing bread. The experiment has failed. You must immediately halt this catastrophic waste of your vital life force. Stop pouring yourself into the void. Reclaim every single drop of your scattered energy. Forcefully pull it back from the emotional vampires and center it deep within your own fortified core. Focus entirely on the cultivation of your own internal sovereignty. The moment you finally cure yourself of the pathetic, suffocating sickness of needing to be liked by every passing stranger, a profound transformation occurs. You step into your true power. You finally become capable of commanding deep, genuine respect. And the very instant you conquer your paralyzing subconscious fear of being betrayed by the weak, you unlock the strategic clarity required to begin forging true, unbreakable alliances with the strong. Do not harbor any naive illusions. The world outside your mind is an incredibly dangerous, unforgiving arena. It is a dark forest, absolutely saturated with hidden traps, camouflaged predators, and silent dangers lurking in the underbrush. However, you must realize that the single most lethal trap in existence, the one that will guarantee your ultimate destruction, is not located in the world. It is located in your mind. It is your own willful, stubborn blindness to reality. Force your eyes wide open. Suffer the burning light of truth. Cast a cold, utterly unsentimental gaze upon every single individual who currently occupies a space within the perimeter of your daily existence. Ask the brutal questions and demand honest answers from your intuition. Who among them is subtly, patiently holding the knife just out of your line of sight? Who is cowardly hiding in the grey middle, waiting to see which way the wind blows? Who is endlessly performing a grand moral play, wearing a brilliant mask of virtue, while their true nature decays in the shadows? You must see them for exactly what they are. You must silently acknowledge the threat they pose to your empire, and then, with the absolute chilling precision of a master surgeon removing a malignant tumor, you must silently, ruthlessly, and permanently excise them from the fabric of your life. Do not hesitate. You have monumental work to accomplish in this world. You are attempting to scale the absolute summit of your potential. You simply cannot endure the arduous, grueling climb up the treacherous face of the mountain if you insist on carrying the dead, rotting weight of toxic relationships on your back. Yet, before the gates of your fortress can be permanently sealed, there remains one final critical inspection that must be ruthlessly executed. There is one specific individual you must submit to the ultimate, most terrifying stress test. This is the entity that is by far the most difficult to see clearly, as it is cloaked in the ultimate camouflage of self-justification. You must gather your courage, walk into the harsh light, and look directly into the mirror. Stare into your own eyes and ask the terrifying questions. Are you yourself secretly acting as the premature confessor? Are you subtly weaponizing your own past pain and trauma to trap well-meaning others in a web of unearned obligation? Are you the coward masquerading as the pathological neutral? When the moment of truth arrives and your friends face the fire, do you lack the spiritual iron to stand firmly beside them, choosing instead the safety of the silent shadows? Are you the grand, exhausting moral performer? Are you expending all of your vital energy desperately acting like a good, holy person for the applause of the crowd, instead of doing the quiet, agonizing work of actually becoming real? The grand masters of strategy left us with a final chilling warning regarding the infinite layers of deception. They noted that while it is indeed a profound, thrilling pleasure to successfully deceive the master deceiver, there is a limit. The ultimate unpardonable sin of strategy is to successfully deceive yourself. You cannot outmaneuver your own soul. The cold, heavy sword of objective truth is a remarkably sharp, double-edged weapon that cuts deeply in both directions. If you truly deeply desire a life surrounded by unbreakable loyalty, then you must first become the absolute walking embodiment of loyalty itself. You cannot demand from the universe what you are fundamentally unwilling to provide. If you seek the comforting presence of true strength in your allies, you must forge yourself into an unbreakable pillar of strength first. If you wish to sit at a table surrounded by a circle of sovereign kings and queens, then you must immediately cease acting like a gossiping, weak, and easily manipulated courtier. The standard you attract is precisely the standard you embody. You must ruthlessly cleanse the darkness and weakness from your own internal house. Only after you have scrubbed your own soul clean of the parasitic tendencies, the cowardice, and the performative illusions, can you rightfully stride to the heavy iron gates of your newly purified kingdom and seal them shut against the chaotic world. The chaotic, unforgiving machinery of the world possesses absolutely no reward for those who choose to remain naive. It does not pity the blind. It simply mechanically grinds them into dust and consumes their energy without a second thought. Simultaneously, the world offers no grand prize for those who surrender entirely to blinding paranoia. It simply isolates them, abandons them to the darkness of their own making, and ignores their terrified screams from the void. The grandest rewards of this existence, the true sovereignty, the deep peace, and the unbreakable power, are reserved exclusively for the perceptive, for those rare souls who possess the terrifying courage to see the world exactly as it is. You must strive with every breath to be the one who truly sees, to be the one who looks past the shimmering illusions and grasps the cold, hard mechanics of reality. You must become the one who inherently knows the truth before a single word is spoken. Commit yourself to becoming the immovable object. Become the sovereign entity that simply cannot be taken by surprise because your eyes are wide open to the darkness and your mind has already calculated every possible betrayal before it even begins to manifest. This state of hyper-awareness, this stoic acceptance of the brutal truths of human nature, is the purest manifestation of ultimate power. It is emphatically not the desperate, exhausting desire to micromanage and control the actions of others. True power is the profound ability to see others with such terrifying, crystalline clarity that they lose all ability to ever control, manipulate, or destroy you. You become untouchable, operating on a frequency far above their petty machinations. Therefore, proceed through the chaotic battlefield of life in powerful, observing silence. Keep your mouth firmly shut and diligently watch the subtle, revealing movements of their hands. And above all else, place your sacred trust entirely and exclusively in that which has been rigorously proven by time and extreme pressure. If this profound realization has successfully shattered the comforting illusions that previously blinded you, you must understand a critical boundary. What has been revealed to you thus far is merely the surface of the dark waters. It is the absolute limit of what can be safely illuminated in the public square. Society operates upon a fragile collective agreement to ignore the darker, more terrifying aspects of human nature. The grand algorithm of the modern world is designed to artificially suppress the most potent, powerful, and liberating information. It demands conformity, blind trust, and endless comfortable consumption. The masses are actively encouraged to remain in a state of perpetual naivete. They are fed a steady diet of sanitized philosophies that preach unconditional forgiveness for those who continuously stab them in the back. This is by design. A population that cannot identify its predators is a population that is easily managed. There are certain terrifying aspects of dark psychology, certain unvarnished truths regarding the machinations of the human mind that simply cannot be openly discussed without inviting the swift, crushing censorship of the collective. Vert. The herd fears the wolf, but it fears the man who understands the wolf even more. The herd will attempt to demonetize your spirit. They will attempt to shame you for your cold, calculated boundaries. They will label your stoic self-preservation as toxic paranoia. They do this because your newfound immunity to their subtle manipulations terrifies them. You are no longer a viable food source, but you have remained here standing firmly in the harsh light of these uncomfortable truths. This endurance proves that you are fundamentally different from the sleeping masses. You possess the rare iron constitution required to digest the bitter medicine of reality without choking on your own shattered ideals. You must now consciously choose to step beyond the basic survival mechanics. You must elevate your consciousness and willingly step into the architect level of human dynamics. An architect does not merely survive the collapsing building, they study the exact mechanics of the failure to build an indestructible tower. Stepping into this elevated state requires you to unlock the exclusive, uncensored chambers of your own mind. You must willingly dive into the deepest, most terrifying, and profoundly isolated parts of the human psyche. You must study the darkness not to become it, but to absolutely master its predictable movements. The vast majority of humanity will never take this final, crucial step. They will read the ancient texts, nod their heads at the philosophy, and immediately return to the warm, comforting embrace of their toxic relationships. They would rather die a slow, agonizing death in familiar company than face the cold reality of standing alone. That is precisely the point. The architect level is sparsely populated by design. It is a lonely, elevated plateau reserved exclusively for those who have willingly traded their comforting illusions for the heavy, unyielding crown of absolute sovereignty. It is a fortress built upon the bones of dead naivete. Within this fortress, you will learn to observe the world through a lens devoid of emotional distortion. You will watch the grand, chaotic play of society unfold before you, and you will instantly recognize every single actor, every hidden motive, and every subtle manipulation before the scene even begins. You will observe the premature confessor attempting to cast their web of guilt upon a new victim, and you will feel nothing but a cold, clinical understanding of their pathology. You will not rush to intervene, for you understand that some must be bitten to learn the true nature of the snake. You will watch the pathological neutral nervously shifting their weight, desperately trying to evaporate into the background as a conflict erupts. You will note their cowardice, catalog it in the deep archives of your mind, and permanently bar them from ever holding a position of strategic importance within your empire. You will see the moral performer taking center stage loudly, broadcasting their manufactured righteousness to a crowd of adoring, gullible fools. You will see the applause, you will see the blinding halo they have crafted, and you will also see the hidden dagger dripping with venom securely fastened to their thigh. This is the ultimate liberating power of the Stoic architect. You are no longer tossed violently upon the chaotic waves of human emotion. You are the immovable cliff face against which the turbulent ocean of manipulation crashes and shatters into harmless foam. You remain eternally untouched. To maintain this impenetrable state, you must implement a daily, rigorous practice of mental hygiene. The defense of your inner citadel is not a one-time event. It is a continuous, lifelong campaign. The predators are relentless, and they will constantly probe your perimeter for new weaknesses to exploit. Every morning before you expose your mind to the chaotic demands of the world, you must reaffirm your internal code. You must remind yourself that your finite energy, your time, and your sacred trust are the most valuable currencies in existence. They must be guarded with lethal, uncompromising force. Do not freely distribute the gold of your attention to beggars who offer nothing but dramatic tales of their own self-inflicted misery. Do not invest the heavy capital of your loyalty into the sinking ships of those who refuse to patch their own hulls. Let the dead bury the dead. Your focus must be absolute. Redirect every ounce of the energy you once wasted on rehabilitating the broken and pour it into the construction of your own unstoppable momentum. Build your financial independence, cultivate your physical strength, and forge an unshakable mastery over your own emotional state. As your power and influence inevitably grow, the quality of the masks approaching you will improve. The manipulators will become more sophisticated, their words more honeyed, their traps more elaborate. They will sense your ascension and desperately seek to attach themselves to your rising star. This is where the true test of the architect level begins. You must apply the same ruthless scientific pressure tests to the executives, the charming partners, and the powerful allies as you did to the common parasites. Rank and status do not grant immunity from the cold read of human nature. If a king displays the shifting eyes of a pathological neutral when a difficult alliance must be honored, you must mentally strip him of his crown. If a titan of industry acts with the draining, boundary-breaking entitlement of a premature confessor, you must calmly and decisively sever the contract. Never allow the glittering allure of potential power, wealth, or profound physical beauty to blind you to the underlying rot of a flawed character. A poisoned well remains deadly no matter how magnificent and intricately carved the stones surrounding it may be. You will die of thirst drinking from it. The Stoic mind understands that true wealth is not measured by the sheer volume of individuals desperately clamoring for your attention. True wealth is the profound, quiet peace that comes from knowing absolutely every single person. Granted access to your inner sanctum is a proven, battle-tested warrior. It is a silent, unshakable confidence. When you turn your back, you do not feel the prickling anxiety of an impending strike. You feel the solid, reassuring presence of an impenetrable shield wall, held firmly by those who share your code, your vision, and your uncompromising dedication to reality. This is the ultimate evolution. You have successfully navigated the minefield of the human shadow. You have recognized the three faces of betrayal. You have shattered the masks, purged the poison from your ranks, and sealed the heavy gates of your mind against the chaotic, grasping world. Now, from the high, silent towers of your own sovereign kingdom, look out upon the vast, chaotic landscape of the world. Breathe in the cold, clear air of absolute truth. You are no longer the prey. You are the architect of your own destiny, forever immune to the dark mechanics of the human shadow.